So leading up to Tuesday, we've seen Jesus enter into Jerusalem, receiving the welcome of a king on Palm Sunday. And then on Monday, he entered into the temple and he pushed people out with a whip of cords, flipping tables. And this was praised by pilgrims and some of his followers because even if for just a moment, he thwarted the entire corrupt system where they're monetizing the temple on Holy Week for their purposes. And so as you can expect, these two things inevitably heightened the tensions between Jesus and the religious leaders. And so as a result of these things and these tensions, the religious leaders showed up early to the temple on Tuesday to have verbal arguments with Jesus. And Jesus' followers showed up early to the temple as well so that they might be able to see something shocking and amazing again. You can read about this interaction between Jesus and the religious leaders if you read Matthew chapters 21 through 23. But essentially what they begin to do is they begin to ask him questions that are impossible questions for him to answer, that no matter what his response is, they're gonna catch him in this trap. But Jesus, being as wise as he is, instead of answering their questions, he responds to them with another question. And so he enters into this altercation with them, and he allows for his followers to see that the authority has actually been given to him from God above. So the religious leaders begin by asking Jesus, who is it that gave you the authority to enter into the temple to teach and to do what you did yesterday? And so instead of answering, knowing that this is a trap, Jesus instead asks them a question. And he asks, where is the authority from John the Baptist's baptism? Is it from heaven or is it from man? Knowing that if they respond with heaven, then that has just given him the authority to teach in the temple and to do the things that he's doing. But if they respond with man, then they understand that there's going to be a riot because most of the people in that day and age understood John the Baptist to be a prophet from God. So silencing his oppressors, Jesus moves on to tell them three parables. He tells them the parable of the two sons, the parable of the tenants, and the parable of the wedding feast. Ultimately, what he's doing in these parables is he's revealing how the Jews and the religious leaders have rejected him as the coming Messiah, as the promised Messiah. And because of their rejection and leading other Jews to reject him as the promised Messiah, how the Gentiles are now in a large span are going to be welcomed in and ushered in to the kingdom of God. And so in another attempt to trap Jesus with their questions, the Pharisees approach him again and they begin to ask him whether it's lawful to pay taxes to Caesar. They ask him about the resurrection and they ask him which of the commandments is the greatest. And Jesus, able to answer all those questions, begins to reveal that their questions are off base because their hearts are nowhere near their faith. And so their religion became all about head knowledge, absent of love and faith. Seeing their inability to trap Jesus in their verbal arguments, they understand that they're going to have to resort to a more stealthy approach, Judas Iscariot. And so on Tuesday, in the middle of this back and forth with the religious leaders, Jesus was teaching his followers about the death that he was about to endure. And as he was telling them about them, God the Father spoke down and he spoke from heaven saying that he would be glorified in Jesus's obedience. And while everyone heard the noise, there were some of the people who had ears to hear that attributed that voice to an angelic being speaking, while the others that didn't have ears to hear, they attributed it to thunder. And so the challenge I have for you today is as you read through the text and reflect on all that God has done, is to ask God to give you ears to hear and eyes to see only that which he can reveal to you.